So you want to start freelance writing and you don't know where to start and you don't have any experience. In this video, I'm going to show you how to get started freelance writing. I'll walk you through how I started in 2014 and how things have changed today. You'll learn the lessons I learned along the way and the quickest way to get started moving forward in 2021 or 2022. Let's get into the video. Early on in 2014, when I was just starting freelance writing and I was researching the industry itself, I always found that there were two camps of people. One that said that you don't need any experience at all, you don't need any samples, and you don't need to be a good writer. You can just wake up in your pajamas and one day decide to be a freelance writer and you're good to go and you'll make a ton of money. On the other end of the spectrum, you have this idea that to start freelance writing, you need a degree in writing or English literature. Maybe you need to have some journalistic experience, or you need to have a lot of experience going in and you have to be an established author or something. Both of these are extreme misconceptions. You need to be able to write, sure, you need to be able to navigate your way around business, and you do need to be able to sell yourself a little bit. But do you need to have a ton of experience? No. Do you need to have a journalistic degree or English, a degree in English language or literature? No. The truth is, it is simple to get started, but it still does take some work and you still need some skills. Now, speaking of what you need, before we dive into the actual step-by-step process of how to get started when you have very little to no experience, let's first dive into the things you'll need to get started freelance writing. Number one is you need to be able to write. Pretty obvious, but you'd be surprised at the number of bad pitches I've received from people who want to write for our website and want to write for any kind of blog that I've managed. And what's important here is to be able to write comfortably in the type of writing that you want to specialize in. For example, I specialize in content writing and content writing for B2B SaaS and tech companies. I'm pretty comfortable writing for most SaaS companies across any kind of niche or industry. I know how to write content, I know how to plan content, I know how content works. You need to have that same kind of familiarity with what you're writing about. So if your field is going to be copywriting or video sales letters, for example, if that's what you want to specialize in, write a few sales letters, make sure you're comfortable, get your work peer reviewed, get other people to take a look at it and leave some feedback. Once you're comfortable and once you know that you can write properly, you're good to go. Once you've mastered the fundamentals of what you're doing it on a regular basis will allow you to improve your skills and clear any mistakes that you have. So make sure you have a strong foundation. Don't spend too long going over the intricacies of writing because you learn by doing. So the second thing you'll need is a laptop or a computer and obviously an internet connection to do your work. The third thing you need is an email address to communicate with clients, pitch clients, negotiate rates, and finally the fourth thing you need is a way to get paid. So those are the four simple things that you're going to need to get started. Now that we have the necessities out the way, let's look at the step-by-step process I'd use today. So when I started, it was a confusing time. So I had a low-paying fast food job. It was back in 2014. I was in college. I wasn't making much money. In fact, I was making like £4 an hour. I was about to finish college and I didn't have a lot of savings and I didn't have a lot of money coming in, and I was really confused about what I wanted to do. And eventually I stumbled across freelance writing and I knew that this was the route that I wanted to take. One of the best things I did in those days when I was earning a tiny wage was invest in John Morrow's guest blogging program. This was pretty expensive for me at the time. I think it was around $500 to $600, which is about £400 or £500. That was basically a whole month's wage for me back then. Fortunately, it was the right move because this guest blogging program taught me the fundamentals of how to pitch editors, how to write guest posts, and the value of guest posts for getting your freelance writing career off the ground, or even establishing yourself as a blog, as a personality, building your brand and spreading the word about whatever it is you're doing. So guest blogging is extremely valuable, and that's one of the first things I'd recommend if you're a newbie with zero experience. I'd urge you to get started guest blogging. You want to show that you've written for and have been published on different websites. Guest blogging is the #1 way to do that. I earned my first client from my very first guest post, and the guest post was so large, I think it was around 10,000 words. Felicity Fields was the editor at Firepoint Marketing at that time. We had to split it up into 3 different blog posts, and I think on the first or second blog post I actually landed a client, and on the third one I also landed another client. But these were amazing gigs. They were like single page sales letters for a couple $100. But considering that I was a wet on the ear newbie, this was great news because I just published some guest posts and it worked. I got some clients and I had proven work samples to show other people. If I was you, I'd get started guest posting ASAP. The mistake I made when guest posting was that I didn't diversify my portfolio. So if I was to start again, if I had a few interests in different niches, I'd get a few samples across all different niches. So if you are interested in health and fitness, get a couple of health and fitness guest posts under your belt. If you're interested in finance, pitch to some finance blogs. If you're interested in marketing, pitch to some marketing and business blogs. The power of doing so is that your eggs aren't in one basket, and that if you want to diversify, you can. The other powerful benefit of guest posting is the power of backlinks and the power of cumulative referral traffic. I didn't know nothing about SEO when I started in the first year, like from 2014 to 2015, but I think I published around 20 to 30 guest posts, and just that the value of those backlinks and the small trickle of referral traffic from those guest posts, it allowed me to generate 1,500 visitors a month, which was amazing because I didn't know how I was doing it. I barely had any content on my site, and I just had guest posts linking back to the website. If I had better optimized my site and captured leads, I would have had a much better site today. So that's just a cautionary tale from me. So that's the number one tip if you're getting started with no experience. Start guest posting and get some experience, get some work under your belt. If you're literally starting from zero, I'd aim for just start guest posting full time. Whether you're paid or whether you do it for free, it's worth it. So the second tip for getting started with no experience is to start your own blog. Starting your own blog isn't as effective as guest posting. Guest posting puts you out there immediately if you're looking to land clients. But starting your own blog is also a great way to get started and get some realistic work samples uploaded onto the web. The reason why starting your own blog isn't as effective is because you basically have no eyeballs on your website if you're starting it from scratch. If you have got 0 samples and you don't want to guest post just yet, you can simply upload your own blog posts to your website, but make sure that they're of a high caliber. Step number 3 is to build your portfolio. By now you've been busy guest posting, maybe you're a couple of months in, you've got a lot of guest posts out, you've got guest posts on different niche sites, maybe you've even started your own blog and have your own website. So you've been busy guest posting, maybe you have your own blog, but either way you have some samples published, you have some work out there, you've worked with some editors, and you have some experience under your belt. Congratulations. The third step is to put all of these guest posts and samples into one place. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be your website. If you don't have a website, you don't need to panic, it's fine. You can build one when you're ready and you have a few paying clients. For now, what you want to focus on is putting all these samples in one place so that editors can review your work and so that future clients can get a feel for your work and see if you're a good match for them. Now, you don't necessarily need a website to do this. You can use sites like Contently, which is like a content marketing platform for businesses that also allows freelancers to upload their portfolios and writing samples directly onto the website. You can also literally just write content and upload it directly to the site and use that as a sample of your work if you were so inclined. But I'd strongly suggest going the guest posting route first, because you're going to gain a ton of experience working with real editors, and the samples that you generate are more valuable because they're real life published guest posts. Now, the fourth step, or before we get to the fourth step, just a quick bonus tip. So it's now a good time to ask for a testimonial. If editors like your work, most of the time they'll be more than willing to give you a few kind words about your work. Early on, this will go a long way, especially if the editor works for a reputable blog. Step number 4, and speaking of closing deals, it's time to start pitching clients. By now you've got samples, maybe I'd say you're probably around the 3rd or 4th month mark. As an aside, the quicker you guest post, the quicker you pitch clients, the quicker you do everything, the more work you put in, the easier it is to get results. And those results come faster, but you just have to put in the hard work. I dilly-dallied for a while, I guest post here and there, and that's something I regret doing. If I guest posted more often, I was more aggressive about pitching clients, I would have made more money early on in my freelance writing career. Now, back to pitching clients. There's a few ways and different channels to pitch clients, so I'm just going to quickly cover that. I'll probably release a video on pitching in the future. If not, check out some resources online. Now, the easiest source of freelance writing clients is obviously job boards. Punch in freelance writing job boards on Google, you'll find a ton of lists that will direct you to some great quality job boards. So now that we talked about job boards, which is the easiest way to get started, but not necessarily the best way for high quality leads, here are some other ways you can pitch clients and get freelance writing leads for your business. LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs is technically a career job board, but they often have contractor positions or freelancer positions that are easy for any freelancer to apply to, and you can also quick upload your CV from your LinkedIn profile. Speaking of LinkedIn, LinkedIn is a great way to build up your reputation and authority in your niche or just as a freelance writer. I'd advise you to get started connecting with other writers, especially content managers, content marketing managers, editors, people who manage content basically. It's not easy to get started. You have to create a lot of content. It's not something I've been successful at, but I've seen other people do well. But it's definitely a valid resource in today's day and age. This wasn't as big like in 2014 when I started, but I've seen a lot of people develop big reputations over LinkedIn and just make a lot of money simply from the fact that they have a reputation of following on LinkedIn. So another way to generate clients is to use a specialist site like FlexJobs, which is a private job board site, private and paid job board site. You can also check out the normal job search engines like Indeed and Glassdoor, all the rest of them. I've often found a few contractor positions on them and applied to them. There's definitely some work there. And the final tip that I recommend is cold emailing. I've cold emailed in the past. It's generated a few leads, but it takes a lot of work to get off the ground, and you really have to know what you're doing. I'd advise doing some research on how to cold email, read some sales blogs on how to set up a cold email campaign. But basically what you want to do is gather a list of companies who can afford and would want your services in your industry, who you probably have samples for, and pitch them your content services. Connect with their editors on LinkedIn, connect with their managers on LinkedIn, and also pitch them on email. It's a dedicated effort, and it definitely is a numbers game, but if you're starting completely from scratch, this can be a great way to get started. And that brings us to the end of the video, guys. Just to summarize the steps that you should take if you're starting freelance writing from scratch with zero experience. Number 1, guest post and get some working samples. Number 2, start a blog if you want, if you don't want to guest post, but you should guest post above all. I'd prioritize guest posting as the number 1 thing, because you'll have some working samples and some work experience under your belt, even though you might work for free. Number 3 is to build your portfolio. Once you start getting guest posts published, compile them into one place, use a site like Contently, or use your own website to host all those samples. Get all those samples in one place so that editors and future clients can see your work and validate your claims. Number 4 is to start pitching clients. So you've developed your niche, you've guest posted in your niche, you have some content published, you work with editors. The step in between 3 and 4 is to ask editors for testimonials. So you should also have some social proof by now, demonstrating that you can write, demonstrating you can do the work that you're aiming to do. So you should start pitching. Pitch on job board sites, cold email clients, use LinkedIn, whatever tickles your fancy. Just pick a strategic way of doing things and stick to it. Final tip I'd give is to market consistently. So once you start pitching, you're probably going to snag a few clients, but don't start pitching. Once you've got those few clients, just have a regular cadence of pitching clients, applying for contractor positions, or just applying for gigs on different job boards. Apply every day or every other day. Whatever you do and whatever cadence you keep, just make sure it's a regular part of your marketing activities, because you're a business now. Other than that, that's everything you need to know to get started. Don't overcomplicate things, just go out and do the work. If you're only going to do one thing out of this whole video, just go out and guest post, get some samples published, and you might even get lucky and get clients just from those single guest posts. So good luck. If you need any help, feel free to @me in the comment section below. And that's the end of this video, guys.